feminists are not just straight women. There are lesbian women, there are bisexual women, pansexual women, trans women. Feminism is not just about heterosexual women and their issues. And in some cases, like what we'll be talking about today, we find out that even though the oppressors that we've always known are men, there are cases, there are scenarios that the oppressors, the direct oppressors, are women. Today's episode is going to be very hot because we are handling an issue we've not broached before. We're talking about something that we've never talked about before. It is about misogyny in lesbian relationships. I think when we talk about feminism, a lot of people forget that feminists are not just straight women. There are lesbian women, there are bisexual women, pansexual women, trans women. Feminism is not just about heterosexual women and their issues. And in some cases, like what we'll be talking about today, we find out that even though the oppressors that we've always known are men, there are issues, there are cases, there are scenarios that the oppressors, the direct oppressors, are women. I'm not talking about when it's women gatekeeping patriarchy or being the enablers of patriarchy or being the people who impose patriarchy. I don't mean that. That's indirect. I'm talking about when women are the direct oppressors, when they take up the role of men in relationships and become the direct oppressors in relationships. And that is what we'll be talking about today. Misogyny, as we know it, but in lesbian relationships. And to help me talk about it is one of my favorite feminists and my producer, America.
Hello.
She will be handling a lot of these questions because she has more experience than I do in these issues. And I'm going to be firing her with questions as the outsider that I am and you probably are. So, America.
Yeah.
Is there misogyny in lesbian relationships?
Definitely. When you hear misogyny in a sentence, you expect to hear a man just like in that sentence, like the next word after that misogyny has to be a man. You don't expect it to be a woman. So why are we talking about misogyny in lesbian relationship that is supposed to be kumbaya? Like when you see straight women expecting it to, I have an extra wardrobe, mad sex, orgasms. Men don't give us orgasms, right? All of that.
Yeah, because I think I've told you this before. My image and the mental image of most straight women when we talk about a same-sex relationship is dating your best friend. Because a lot of us have female best friends. It's literally like dating your best friends. You know, at some point your cycles will sync up. You people will do everything together. You have an extra wardrobe. It's literally like dating your best friend. And that's why a lot of women are open to it. That's why you see a lot of women who go like, if things don't work out with men,
I'll
turn gay. You know, they say it in a way like you can just wake up one morning and be like, today is the day I turn gay. And it's okay. But now that we are hearing that the same wahala we are experiencing with men, that it also occurs in same-sex relationships. It's blowing my mind. So what is happening?
So quickly, before I get into that, let me just say that I am going to be using a lot of gender terms within very rigid situations. And I know it's going to be painful for a lot of people to hear. They, them, I'm sorry. But this is Nigeria and I need my points to be carried across well, I guess. For today, we're going to be using studs as a case study. That does not mean that all studs are misogynistic. We're not dragging studs, please. Okay, first of all, let's start with, we know the basics. What misogyny is. Misogyny is basically like the hatred of women, contempt for women. Yeah, and like I said before, when we talk about misogyny, it's almost always associated with men, and things like misogyny and violence is not something you expect when you talk about lesbian relationships. And you might just say, okay, maybe we're talking about internalized misogyny, but it's not just that. All right. And like I said before, again, a lot of straight women, they romanticize queer relationships with women. There are straight women that don't actually know that, and even not just straight women, even up and coming like closeted queer women that do not know that they can experience physical abuse in lesbian relationships. Now, studs. We're going to be using studs as a case study, not because they are the only ones that can be misogynistic in lesbian relationships, don't get me wrong, right? But because of their proximity to maleness.
Proximity to maleness.
Yes, proximity to maleness. And because from the data available, it's like they are most times the aggressors. Do you get?
Yeah.
Okay, so who is a stud? A lot of Nigerians confuse stud and tomboy and this and that. So I'll just give like a quick, simple definition. So an article by Chris Chesson titled "Stud Lesbians Explained" defines stud as a black, masculine identifying lesbian. Stud is racially specific because it was created by black lesbians to differentiate their experiences from their white counterparts and express gender roles developed within the black community. Butch is used mostly for white lesbians, but we're going to be using studs today when we're talking about the issues today because we're Nigerians and we're black, right? And then tomboys, their presentation can be masculine, but they can also be straight. Tomboys can be any sexuality, but studs are lesbians.
Okay, you're saying that not all tomboys are lesbians.
Yeah, not all tomboys. They can be of any sexuality.
Just like not all effeminate men or metrosexual men are
gay. Yes.
Okay, so that's a huge clarification.
Yes.
Okay, continue, Sensei.
So what makes a stud is not just the clothes or their ability to wink in TikTok videos, or my personal favorite, their ability to make very, very straight women question their sexuality.
This is a sub, guys.
This is a shade. A serious straight women. Alright. Being a stud here is definitely much more than that. And I can't explain exactly what it entails to identify with masculinity from a personal experience. Even though Ijoma here likes to call me a stud, I am not one, right? Because I do not identify at all with masculinity on that level. So I'm just going to be reading from someone who actually does identify with masculinity on that level. Okay. This is still from the article Stud Lesbians Explained by Chris Chesson. She said, and I quote, "Many studs may have unknowingly formed their masculinity and femininity in the sacred spaces where their cisheads, so their straight family and friends, were allowed to be their full selves. The weekend kickbacks, the family get-together, the church, and even the club. Places where everyone wore their absolute best to dance, eat, talk shit, and commune after what may have been a heavy-laden week. These spaces revealed how black men engage with black women and with each other. Youngsters to be watched and often internalized masculinity playing out in real time, watching how these men would sweet talk women, how they would assert their dominance, and even how they joked around with each other."
So, in other words, a society influences these thoughts. Where this is where they pick
up the misogyny in our society.
This is where they pick up these things. It's a learned thing. It's not like they hate women. It's just this is how they see men talk to women.
Proximity to maleness.
Exactly.
Okay. Those influences and learnings, the good and the bad, later allowed them, bracket us, to create a distinct queer identity that felt more authentic to who they were in the world. So this explained the masculinity experience. This is me talking now, by the way. This explained the masculinity experience from studs in the black community in the US, but it very much can apply to studs in the queer community in Nigeria, right? So it's easier for studs in worlds like US, like in countries like US, to like unlearn the bad parts or the toxic parts of masculinity they were fed, and for up and coming studs to have better examples because they'll have like maybe their parents are studs or godparents or auntie or this distant relative, so it's easy for them to unlearn. But in Nigeria, all studs can learn about masculinity most times is just from their male friends. So that proximity to maleness makes that kind of like creates that misogyny in them.
So anyway, we're all product of a society. And I think some of them see themselves as maybe, let's say, man 2.0, or
yeah.
Instead of being a woman, they see themselves as men, or near men, or almost men, and then they imbibe this toxic masculinity, and then their partners suffer. From what you've said, does it mean that in egalitarian societies there is less misogyny? The way that there is less misogyny in the society as a whole, it translates to less misogyny in lesbian relationships.
Like I said earlier on, one of the ways, if not the only way, Nigerian studs are able to learn masculinity is by having male friends. So we're back to that proximity to maleness. And the end result is almost always sweet misogyny. Yeah, you hear it in the way they talk about women to men and then other studs. You hear it in the way they infantilize women, the slut-splaining, the slut-shaming, the catcalling, the gender roles too. You hear it in all of that. But when you have an egalitarian society, they are less likely to, when they make male friends, and these friends are egalitarian, they are less likely to pick up all those like misogyny and then unleash it on their partners. Yeah.
Can you compare the misogyny in straight relationships versus what lesbians experience within themselves?
Okay, there are similarities and there are differences. It's just like in heterosexual, for the similarities, by the way, just like in heterosexual relationships, the way the man expects the woman to be the one cleaning and cooking, that is the same way the stud in a lesbian relationship, they expect the femmes to be the ones cooking and cleaning and all of that.
And both are women.
Yeah, they are both women, but one has to like play man and one has to like play woman. I'm saying play woman because women are not supposed to be cleaning and cooking. Yeah. Those are just gender roles assigned to them. So for the differences.
Well, when it comes to the differences, first of all, I think the very, very first difference is
men are the source.
Men are the source, yes. Men are the blueprints.
Yeah.
Men are the templates. Men are the original. And what they do is, just reliving what they see in the society.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this to you, America, that when we were in secondary school, there were a lot of gay for stay situations. And the ones that were abusive, you now understand that, okay, they've seen this in their society and they are just replicating it. So if men were more egalitarian, like you pointed out earlier, definitely their stud friends whom they talk to will learn that and it will trickle down. It's like trickle down economy. It will definitely trickle down. So the first difference there is that men are the source. Women are just trying to copy. The second difference there, I think, is a stud misogyny is limited. Yeah. The lowliest man, the lowliest Okada rider, or no disrespect to them, or barrow pusher or whatever, the lowliest man
can projects
can be misogynist to the highest woman, Michelle Obama, whomever it is, the first lady. But the highest stud, your misogyny can just end with your partner telling your partner, come on, watch this thing, or bringing out belts to beat your partner. That is it. Okay, I have another question, obviously. Let's go to the next question. I've noticed, okay, we're still talking about misogyny in lesbian relationships.
Yeah.
There are other tiny or subtle misogynistic behaviors. Catcalling, making jokes about women, saying stuff. This thing that men do. The question is this also prevalent in the lesbian community?
So, we're still back to the proximity to maleness, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's this article that I read that said, this article was written in 2013. So this thing we're talking about is nothing. It's not anything new. Yeah, it's not something I just pulled out of my ass and started talking about it, right? So this article is Butch Please, Butch with a Side of Misogyny by Kate. Butch is just the white version of stud. Yeah. So she said, oftentimes when I am in a place occupied by butches and men, masculinity becomes a kind of currency. Mm-hmm. Butches start talking about how they have fucked more girls than men, gotten more pussy, and are better in bed. Mm-hmm. Their sexual partner become objects rather than humans. Mm-hmm. If there are women in the room, their objectification seems to be a bonding mechanism for the butches and men. Laughing about who has the best ass, the best tits, who they would fuck or not fuck. I can show a picture of my girlfriend to a man and know I will get instant respect from him based on her attractiveness. I know that because I've done it in the past. And that respect felt good to me, like my masculinity was confirmed by quote and end quote this source.
Yeah.
And that is just fucked up.
Yeah.
Right?
Very, very, very fucked up.
Yeah, and what you were saying was that the subtle ones, like that is what she's talking about. These subtle ones where women are in the room and what you are thinking about is, oh, who has the best tits? And this is not just between butches and men. Other studs too. This is not just between studs and men now. Other studs too. You see them talking about, oh, this woman, she has better tits than, or she has a better ass than this woman. They just objectify women. The same way that men do it, they also do it.
Okay, this brings me to my next question.
Okay.
Do you think internalized misogyny plays a role in the misogyny that we see in lesbian relationships? Do you think that some of it has to do with hating yourself as a woman?
Yes, it does. Quickly, I'll just start by giving a very simple definition as to what internalized misogyny is. So misogyny, hatred of women, and then a lot of women internalize this hate and then use it against themselves and other women. So a lot of these stuff, they grew up hearing that men are superior to women, and so they keep this in mind, and they've been able to kind of achieve a certain kind of masculinity that makes them think that, oh, I am now a man. Okay. And then they find out they're attracted to women. That hatred they have as a result of that internalized misogyny, that hatred they have for women, they start to use it against women. In this case, they are partners who are almost always femmes. So, yeah.
When we talk about internalized misogyny, some people are like, no, I don't have it. It is not always out there. It is not always pronounced. It's not always, oh, I hate women. It seldom comes as, I hate women, I want to kill my fellow women. No, it's disgust. That's why it is internalized. I mean, that's subtle hatred or subtle disgust you see when you see a woman wearing something like, look at this ashawo. That kind mentality is more of a mentality than an action. It's a passive thing, especially for women. It's men that their own misogyny will push them to call you, to insult you. But women, they're more judgmental when it comes to internalized misogynists. When it's women, they're more judgmental. They are, they don't accord women the same respect they would a man. All those things. So when they grow up and they find out that, okay, at the end of the day, I'm now attracted to a woman and everything, and not even the gender that they even like, the gender that they feel is superior, there is this kind of, they now project this disgust to their partner. Do you think internalized heterosexism plays a role in the misogyny lesbians face in their relationships?
Before I go into explaining what internalized heterosexism is, let me just say something. The ultimate love, lesbian love you see in Hollywood is between a stud and, or we used to see anyways, between a stud and then a femme. So one identifies more with masculinity while the other identifies more with femininity. Their relationship kind of takes like this acknowledge man and woman dating route. It doesn't feel like it's a woman and woman. It feels like a man and a woman. Yeah, where the femme is playing the more traditional roles, gender roles assigned to women, and then the studs they play.
Remember all the lesbian scenes I've watched? It's like this. It's the stud that is always going after the woman.
Yeah, doing the accent out. Yes. I know that things are getting better now because now we have more actual queer writers writing more actual queer, for more actual queer actors. It's not just straight actors that are acting queer roles. So there's more representation now, right? So now where does this internalized heterosexism, where does it come into play here? Let me quickly define internalized heterosexism. This is when a queer person, in this case a stud, internalizes heterosexuality, so being straight, because of the heteronormative society we live in. We live in a very man and woman society. Man weds woman. There's no woman woman loves woman and woman, so we have that, and they see straightness as the default, so they harbor some type of hatred within themselves for liking the same sex. And because most of what they see around them is just like heterosexual relationships, right? And they can't get that. the stud is not a man dating a woman, it's still a woman dating a woman. So they just go for the next best thing, which is they play the man in the relationship and they get their partners, almost always femmes, to play the women.
Okay, this makes sense.
So let's just drag this down, like bring it to Nigerian studs, right? In evolving worlds, like worlds that are trying their best to be better, right? They have the media. The media is trying to change a lot of the perceptions we have internalized on what a typical lesbian relationship should be, right? We now have femme, we have STEM stud, we have stud, we have trans woman femme, right? And we have all of that being portrayed in the media as what a lesbian relationship can be like. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, we're still struggling to accept that a man can actually love another man. A woman can actually love another woman.
Not be using it to just pass time.
Yes, exactly. No media representation. We don't have queer parents. Even if they had that experience, they are going to, God forbid, you and to acquire you. They pretend like, okay, this never happened. This is a sin. This is bad. So do you get? There's nothing around you. All you see around you is in real time is straightness. And if you don't have queer friends, it's just so much more worse for you, right? And say maybe you are also religious, add that to it. You see how hard it is for lesbian women to come to terms with their sexuality.
So the next question is, do men respect studs more? And can you link that to misogyny?
Yes, definitely. Men respect studs more. It's like they know that, okay, this stud is not my equal, quote and end quote, but this stud is someone that is alike. We speak the same language, right? It's just like, okay, let's say there are two black people, right? Black, no question about their race. And then there's one white person. And one of these black person is like code switching. It's kind of like pandering to whiteness, doing things that are considered acceptable by white people. You know, maybe no dreadlocks, that smooth haircut, wearing suit. And then the second person is holding on to things like maybe AAV. The person is not bothering to code switch. The person is just talking quote and end quote ghetto.
Yeah, speaking in Ebonics.
Yeah, they're wearing their Jordans, their Gucci, and the other black man is dressed in a suit. It can just be like a plaid shirt, roll-up sleeved jeans and regular boots, but because that person looks a certain way, it's code switching. The white person will definitely respect that person more than he would respect like the one that is quote and end quote ghetto. If you look at that, it's just the same thing that happens when men respect studs more than they respect women who are feminine presenting. The same thing that men do with studs. Let me give you a little bit of respect compared to the woman that is just like at the other end of the spectrum. Yeah,
this person is coming closer.
It's closer, it's trying. So yes, men definitely do respect lesbians more, and you see how the whole misogyny comes into play.
I think this is like the house nigger, field nigger story. There were house niggers and field niggers. House niggers were those favored by massa, those favored by the white man,
the master.
Yeah. So if you were, and while the field niggers were, normal niggers, if you were ready or willing to throw your fellow niggers
under the
bus, if you were ready to throw them under the bus, tell on them and everything, you graduate to house niggers. And that's proximity, just like she was talking about the proximity to men, that proximity to whiteness make the house niggers feel superior to the field niggers. How do femmes and stems contribute or aid this misogyny in relationships, in lesbian relationships? Because we really focused on studs. We use them as a case study.
They contribute to the misogyny by being complacent in it. Instead of them to question it, they just accept it. If it's in the situation of like a femme and a stud, you see, instead of the femme to like stand up and say, okay, no, this is misogyny, this is affecting our relationship, they just decide to just
play along.
Yeah, play along. It's just something you just fall into. It's obvious to say, okay, this is weird. Why do we have gender roles in this relation? Gender roles that are cut from the same cloth of a heterosexual relationship. Why are we dealing with the same thing in our relationship when we are in a lesbian relationship?
What if some of these femmes, what if some of these femmes also believe in heterosexism, but they need
definitely
they need a man
do.
to, or the concept of a man protecting them is
Yes.
something, no, that riding in on the white chariot and everything.
Yes,
they need to be
definitely.
saved by him, and so they are okay with being protected in quotes, okay with being led in quotes.
And maybe if the stud is financially okay with being provided for. Yes.
Yeah. So they it's like when somebody who claims to be a leader meets someone who wants to be a follower, and they end up replicating the toxic narrative.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that the stud is the bad one in it. It's just something that kind of just flows.
Yeah. So the final question before we close this episode, America.
Ma? Because I feel like you are franking though, and I'm contesting. These questions are tough.
Yeah,
okay.
That's supposed to be. I think when people hear, like I told you before, when people hear lesbian questions and everything, they're like, "Ooh, scissors, be scissoring, ooh, orgasms, ooh, this," and we're not. Not that we're not doing all of that, but at least we want to tackle this from a non-sexual or a non-distinct way. The main issues. So these are tough questions. They are not like, why did you become a lesbian? All those potty questions. They'll make me roll my eyes. Alright, the final question is, what do you think can be done? Obviously, we've outlined all the problems and what we think are theories of the causes of the problems might be. And mind you, we're talking about lesbians in Nigeria, in Africa. This is not about the liberated lesbians that are having a ball that side. No, we're talking of here.
Okay, because we used studs as a case study, I just quickly want to say something. Do not create a space you once felt threatened by for other women. I feel like that's self-explanatory, right? Yeah, but to put it in simple terms, before they started to identify with masculinity, a lot of them were socialized as women. And those spaces you are now actively creating where other women are feeling threatened are spaces you once felt threatened in. You are young, you were socialized as a woman, you're walking past a group of men. The way they talk about you, the catcalling, if you are wearing something they feel is this thing, the slut shaming, right? And now you are creating those spaces with other men and then other swords for women, where women will be uncomfortable to walk past you. Do you see how the irony there? Why are you creating spaces that you once felt threatened by for other women?
I think how allies can help is most allies know or have a lesbian friend. So be the kind of person they can talk to.
And also in general, this does not just apply to one particular group of people. This does not just apply to femmes or studs or straight women that are allies. This is just generally, you guys, you need to educate yourself more. We have a lot now. The world is online. You have very, very positive queer content now. You have the resources. You can go online and read articles. So you have articles are boring. A lot of people they will get bored by that, but we have the visuals, so you can see their movies, really interesting movies.
We were trying to brainstorm about this topic. I was like, I wish that as you're coming out, especially in somewhere like Nigeria where the oppression is like times 10, I wish as you're coming out into your own, you are handed over some text, some articles, some books that can help you navigate these things. There's a lot that we can do personally and collectively. I wish that we were a society that is more open to the idea of therapy, because the things we go through are things that you're supposed to sit down with somebody, a professional, and break it down, and the person will help you see, okay, this is where this is coming from, this is wrong, this is something you need to discard. But we don't have that, so we have to self-introspect, which is hard for some people. So
it's hard for if you go and tell this person, you're being misogynistic, they get defensive.
Obviously. Do you know how many people have blocked me on Facebook because I told them, feminists, this point of view is misogynistic, and they're like,
and you have to understand that it's not because you're a bad person, it's the way you were socialized. There are some things I catch myself just saying or thinking, I'm like, okay, this is really wrong. That self-awareness will really, really help.
Yeah, and you can't get there on your own. It's not something that you just wake up one morning and light bulb and you're like, okay, I'm there now. It's something that you have to work through. Something you have to read books, like I'm very impressed. One thing I find, okay, there are so many things that I love about you, America, but one thing is you're always reading stuff. Like you say, by Sarah Chustin, like
Because there's this thing that happens to me when I have a topic in my head. I know exactly what I want to say, but then when it's coming out of my mouth, I feel like it's not true. I know it's true. Yes, I know that it's true, but coming from me, I feel like it's less.
No.
It has less authenticity. I feel like, and not just because I am feeling like, oh, I'm not. Why this feels like a therapy session. Okay, it feels more like, okay, just like when men go, where are the statistics?
Okay.
So I feel it's like it's not just a me problem. I know it's a me problem. I have to deal with my issues too.
Yeah.
Because I know stuff, but when I'm saying it, I like want to make sure, okay, I'm using this to add on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like I feel like people will see all of those citations, when they're like, oh, it's published, it's out there already. So I guess that is why
it's good for self-introspection, because if you're willing to go source for materials to help, just a common episode that we're having, who knows how much you've sourced and read just for yourself as a human being. Yeah,
don't check my YouTube.
Exactly. So I'm sure there are a lot of content about queer life, queer women online. There should be podcasts dedicated to them. There are a lot.
I know that it's like abroad people. Yeah. We don't have it in Nigeria, but still you can
use it.
Yes,
and educate
it applies.
Yourself.
Yes,
you can use it and educate yourself. There are content upon content upon content dedicated to this particular topic. So it's not something that you just be like, you can get help. You don't have to wait for a therapy. Obviously, I know that therapy in Nigeria is bastard money, but you can do these things, read up on it, watch videos, listen to podcasts on it, and start helping yourself little by little. And also have friends that you can talk to, friends that hold you accountable and all of that. I hope that a lot of women, and even those that are coming up, those that are yet to come to terms with their identity, closeted lesbians and everything, I hope that this is not what they come to meet, especially in a place like Nigeria where you can't even go to the police to report. What are you going to go and tell them? My best friend beats me, my partner beats me. Oh, it's horrible. So to round it up, because now we're rounding it up.
Okay, so it's going to help you a lot when all you're consuming is not through the lens of internalized heterosexism, when you are seeing different variations of what queer love can be like, right? It's not just
this is dreamer. Yeah,
it's not just this and this. It can be this, that. It's not just this and that. It can be this, that. Just if different variations.
It's like you can make your own chocolate swirl or a ice cream flavor. You can mix up everything,
and it's also going to help with kind of like curbing the misogyny, because when you are seeing it in those variations, you are not internalizing the heterosexual relationships that you see, that most of them are based on like the patriarchal ideals of our society.
When you were saying content, the only thing that came to my mind was like, every content we are getting from, when it comes to lesbian love, is what abroad people deem it fit to give to us. It's like what they give us, we take. It would be amazing if we can create our own reality, just so that the next generation coming up can have something they can feed off of, that is not just
that is authentic to us.
That is authentic to us. That is not just maybe what Obodo people are giving us, and it's not just a stud winking and licking lips and rubbing palms like something that on TikTok, and they'll be like, there were no disrespect to them, but there was a time, studs were going viral. It's like a competition of the studs from 2020 during that lockdown period. You have to wear your best skinny jeans and your tightest shirts and plaster your breasts so that it will be flat on your chest, and then everybody like they want to start fire with your and I used to say, Why is it? I used to think, why don't femmes get that much attention? It's always the male presenting. Like femmes, pretty girls are pretty girls. Nobody cares if you're a pretty girl and you're a lesbian. What they care about is if you're boyish and looking handsome-ish and you're a lesbian. That's one everybody wants to go gather. But there are pretty girls who are feminine and they are lesbians and they do all of that. Nobody gives a fuck up. They don't go viral. The ones that go viral
because they are feeding into the stereotype.
Exactly. They are feeding into this. Wear wife beater, singlets, everything.
Feeding into
and then. And I even hate when men do it. So I don't understand why women do it and
lick their lips.
Women go, oh my god. Every time.
In case you don't know what Ijoma is doing, she's rubbing her palms together, licking her lips.
Maybe sometimes we'll start doing videos so that people will see. Because sometimes when we laugh, I think if you're listening to it, you won't understand why we're laughing. There are a lot going on behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yes.
So this was a really, 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 really insightful. I think this is one of the most insightful pieces we've actually done. And is sort of expository because the things we've dealt with here, I don't think I've actually ever seen it. Even as a Facebook post. The Facebook posts topics we're used to handling are, men are scum, which we all know men are always scum. Even now that we're talking
all day, every day, amen.
Every day. But this is from another angle. And I'm really proud we did something like this. Thank you so much. And it is 100% America's idea and topic.
Thank you.
And I'm very, very, very grateful that you brought this topic. And
why do I feel like you are removing yourself from this?
No,
in case you are ready to drag my hair.
No, you brought the idea. And, I don't think I would have. I was saying, we need to have
inclusion because of
I was even saying, I'm looking forward to having another episode with a gay friend of mine. But America actually brought the vision to life. She's the one that brought up this particular topic, and she's the one that
And we both spoke on it.
Yeah,
so
we both
drag
spoke on
if you want to drag.
But she's the one that. I'm just trying to give you accolades now. All right.
Thank you for the accolades.
I'm the one that did
it's Ijoma's podcast. Hold Ijoma culpable.
No, obviously it's me now. But I'm just saying, I wanted to give you your props because
thank you.
All the homework you did on this topic, all the research you did from this topic, all the technicality that went into it. I told you, I heard the word heterosexism first from you. I was like, wow, that's a cool word. And then all the quoting, all the research and think pieces that you read, you'd be like, Sarah say this, Patriarchal say this. It's very, very, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And for even being a part of it, actually. So
you're welcome. You're welcome.
That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Bitter Feminist Podcast. Follow us at Bitter Feminist Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. You can drop your contributions, questions, or even hot takes on any of our social media platforms. I'm still your host, Ijoma. See you on our next episode. Bye.